I think the Global Leadership Summit is unique in that it really does bring together high-level academics and practitioners and consultants around the same topic. And there are lots of venues that say that they try and do that, but they still really focus either on the academic or the practice agenda first, and then whoever else is there gets to kind of tag along. But the summit has been designed from the beginning to really be about dialogue at this high level around this topic among these different stakeholders. And I think it's very important because there's a gap, as we know, between the research and practice, between knowing and doing. And so bringing together the people who focus on knowing with the people who focus on doing really helps to push both. The other thing that I think is really unique related to that is because you've got high-level practitioners and academics around the same topic, you can start the discussion here already. There's no discussion at all about, do we need more global leaders? Whereas most of these summits, you start with that kind of discussion. And so already we're starting here, and that means we really hit the ground running and we can really push things forward. I think two things are interesting about it. First of all, I think it's interesting that there is a topic. The last two summits have been about global leadership in general. And again, what I think is interesting and unique about the summit is that it has been building. And so we felt this year we wanted to have a theme, a focus, because we'd kind of already made a lot of strides around global leadership in general. So now let's take one aspect of it and really dive down into it. And then we decided on the topic of middle managers because both Alan and I have been, in a lot of the work we've done with organizations recently, we found that the middle management perspective on global leadership is extremely important. This is the crucible where global leaders are developed, is in the middle management. But we tend to focus much more on the top level than the middle in terms of who are the global leaders. But if we don't look at the ones that are being formed, then we can't have the global leaders. And at the same time, we realize that the role of middle managers is really shifting. And it's becoming more complicated for a lot of different reasons. And so it was time to take a look at that. In companies themselves, if they can't get the middle management right, then they're not going to have global leadership or global organizations that work. In emerging markets, one of the biggest barriers to growth and scalability is the lack of middle management. So there were all of these kind of hints saying to us, we need to focus on this. And then when we looked at companies and in the leadership literature, there wasn't a lot of literature telling us, what do you do with middle managers? So we thought, well, there are a lot of questions out here and there aren't very many answers. So let's take the opportunity of a summit to really focus in on this question and see if we can make some headway in understanding, articulating the issues, an agenda for helping them, raise the spotlight on middle managers, kind of make them a little bit more glorious than just the people in the middle for a little while. I do a lot of research on global leadership, and particularly I like to look at global leadership in collaboration, whether it's teams or networks of collaboration in a more complex environment. So sometimes companies think of it as global leadership, sometimes they just think of it as getting things done across boundaries. But the pattern of socio-technical systems, both the virtual teams, so the technical part of it, the organizational forms, and the interpersonal dynamics like trust and ambition for working together to accomplish things across borders as an organization, and including the network outside the organization. So those patterns are the ones that I'm studying right now, and I look at various pieces of it and also the overall questions.